This video is a teardown, complete teardown of a Samsung S4 Mini. You can see the screen is definitely cracked here. We're going to go ahead and do a glass-only replacement on this S4 Mini as well. So I'll go through multiple parts in this video. We have a nylon spudger to help us pry some cables off, a small Phillips screwdriver, and a couple guitar picks to help us kind of pull the frame off of this thing. The first thing we're going to go ahead and do is peel the back off and go ahead and take our battery out. With that done, we're going to go ahead and remove all of the Phillips head screws. Make sure you remove any of the internal parts here, your SIM card or your SD card slot as well. So go ahead and take the screws out and set them aside. All the screws on the back here are the exact same size, so you don't have to worry about remembering exactly which part of the phone they came out of. Like I was saying, this will be multiple parts on this video. So if you bought a full display portion, you'll have to watch it. I'll break it up and put all the parts down in the description for you so you can pick and choose which one you want to watch. We'll undo all of the screws down here at the bottom as well. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to get out. So if you need to use a pair of tweezers or something like that, that can be an option for you as well. Now some other tools that we're going to use for the glass only portion of this is a heat gun, and I'll use some playing cards as well. Alright, and one more screw up here in the upper left hand corner. Go ahead and take our guitar pick here. What we need to do now is basically separate the frame from the mid frame here. So we're just going to take our guitar pick and push in. We can't get it started here. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. If you need to, you can use a metal spudger like this to get it started. I don't like to use this very much. I don't want to damage the actual display itself, so I'll usually try to stick with a guitar pick. You have to give it a little bit of force to get in there, get it started. This particular one's really tight, so it may take me a second to kind of get it to wiggle in there. Normally right in the middle of the side is the way to get started. There we go. Now we've got it started for us. We can go ahead and just move our guitar pick all the way around. You'll feel these little clips unclasp as you move it around. And we'll work our way across the bottom here. Looks like I missed a screw, unfortunately. Don't forget to take them all out. I'm not sure how I overlooked that one. Alright, we'll go ahead and try a guitar pick across the bottom here again. There we go. With that done, we can go ahead and start to remove it. Sorry for taking it off camera. I saw a little cable that was stuck. I couldn't figure out exactly what it was. So it looks like it's just stuck into the back here. We're just going to gently pry that up. It was a part of a ribbon cable, it looks like. We can go ahead and reconnect it if you want to. It looks like it's the ribbon cable for the front buttons, for the back and whatnot. Next step is to go ahead and pry off all these ribbon cables off of the logic board. Do the one for the front facing camera, proximity sensor. Kind of peel them back a little bit. We have a little metal housing here that's holding this down. we're going to use a little thinner spudger to get in here. We're going to use this little dental pick to kind of pry this up. It can be a little bit tricky to get out. It just basically snaps in place. Don't want to bend it too much. So we'll try it from a couple different angles here. Right here on the back is actually where it kind of clips in, so just trying to pry this off of the little hinge that it holds on. You can put a little force in the front and push it backwards if you wanted to. Normally it gets a little bit deformed when you remove it, but that's okay. We can actually just bend it back in the correct shape before we put it back onto the device. So if you do have to pull it off, just don't break it. Perfect, now we have it snapped off. The next step that we can do is go ahead and remove the front-facing camera. It'll just basically pop right out. The proximity sensor here is attached to the earpiece speaker, I believe, so we'll leave that in there just for a little bit longer. Alright, so the next step is, let's take a look at the board down here. I'm just going to try to pry it a little bit and get it started. Just working my spudger just around the sides. Make sure there's no additional screws in here, which there are not. Just try to find an open spot and just put it in and wiggle it back and forth a little bit. It doesn't take a lot of force to get this to remove. You don't want to take it all the way off. The LCD or the AMOLED, or I'll just call it the display. The display ribbon cable is on the opposite side of this board, so be careful when you're prying it off. You're going to want to open it kind of like a book. And that's why it's giving us a little bit of extra force there. We have a ribbon cable still attached right below above the charge port. So now we can take it and kind of pull it upwards a little bit. You can wiggle it and pull it free, and then we'll open it to the right. Let's put it at a 90-degree angle, and you can see the display cable here. We'll go ahead and just pry this off. Perfect. We can go ahead and set that aside. So just double check all these ribbon cables and make sure you had them all off. If you feel any resistance, it's normally because the cable is still attached. Next step is we have our charge port. The nice thing about this phone is that it is separate. So if you want to replace your charge port, that is something that you can do rather than trying to solder one onto a new board. You just need to buy the cable. So we're just pulled up the mic portion of it. We're just going to put our spudger underneath some of the board portion here and try to pull it up a little bit. It does have some adhesive on the back of it. Try to use something that's nice and thin to get underneath it and pry it back and forth a little bit. Perfect, there we go. Now we can go ahead and remove that as well. Set that aside. You can see right here is the adhesive portion I was talking about. Make sure that this little black grommet stays with this portion of the phone. This is what holds your microphone in place. So the additional things to remove is we're going to take out the vibration module here. So if this ever goes out, you can replace it as well. You don't technically have to remove this to pull the screen off. I would suggest it because you're going to be heating up the back side of this to get the AMOLED portion of this out. Try to take out the headphone jack. Pretty simple as well. And our earpiece speaker. Just pry up from the side. Make sure that when you're prying up you don't stick it too far underneath to damage the speaker itself. We can pull out the proximity sensor earpiece speaker. And one last thing that we can remove is we can take out the micro SD card SIM slot. So we'll go ahead and just pull the cable bracket up on the back side of it and then pull the cable out. Stick our metal tool underneath it and try to get this slot to pull out here for us. Now it can be a little bit tricky. You don't want to pull up on the metal here too much. where my spudger disc was. Try to use a nylon spudger to get underneath it. This is really the most important part of the phone, or really one of the most important parts of the phone, so you don't want to damage it. So try to take your time as you're removing it. Basically just putting my sponger underneath, and then we can wiggle it back and forth a little bit. It does have a lot of adhesive underneath it, a lot of surface area for it to attach to, so just try to find a place where you can try to get your tool underneath. It'll normally pop out after a few seconds of prying. And really this is the last piece of the phone that we need to remove before we start our glass removal process. So if you found the disassembly helpful, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer those for you. If you want to see future videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And all the remaining videos to this series will be down in the description. You can watch the glass-only replacement on this phone as well. Next step is to take the glass out.